picture this. You're Isaac Newton hanging out under an apple tree, right? Pondering gravity. But have you ever thought about the apple itself? How did it even get up there?
That's where photosynthesis comes in.
Photosynthesis, right. Yeah.
But it's way more than just like plants using sunlight to make food,
Yeah.
We're talking about transforming air and water and sunlight into the building blocks of light, like everything, trees, apples, even us. And the crazy thing is how efficient it is, like almost 100% efficient. It's mind-blowing.
It really is, yeah. I mean, scientists have been trying to figure that out for ages, like how that energy from the sun gets where it needs to go without any waste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It all starts with chlorophyll, that pigment that gives plants their green color.
Okay.
Chlorophyll molecules are like these tiny little antennas that capture light energy, and that energy is in the form of photons.
Okay, photons, got it.
So when a photon hits a chlorophyll molecule,
Yeah.
it bumps an electron to a higher energy level.
Okay.
And that creates what's called an excitant.
So these excitants are like little energy packets ready to get to work.
Exactly. They're like little bundles of energy just waiting to be used. But here's the thing. That excitant's energy needs to travel to this very specific location in the plant cell called the reaction center.
Reaction center. Okay, so what's that?
It's like a bustling factory where all the real action of photosynthesis happens.
Huh.
But the journey for that excitant to get to that reaction center,
Yeah.
it's not a simple walk in the park. Think of it like having to go through a super dense forest of chlorophyll molecules.
Oh, wow. That sounds tough.
Yeah, it's a real obstacle course. And the old theory was that the excitant just kind of bounced around randomly until it, hopefully stumbled upon the reaction center.
Randomly. That doesn't seem very efficient. Like, what are the odds it would even work?
Yeah. Exactly. It always seemed a bit too chaotic and random to explain how photosynthesis is so incredibly efficient.
Right. It can't just be left to chance, especially at such a tiny level.
You got it. Turns out nature has a trick up its sleeve, and it's a quantum trick.
A quantum trick. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So scientists discovered that these excitants, they don't just take a single path. They actually explore multiple paths simultaneously, kind of like a wave.
Whoa, wait a minute. They're in multiple places at once.
Yeah, it's wild, right? This lets them almost instantly find the most efficient route to the reaction center. And we call this a quantum walk.
So you're telling me that plants are using quantum physics to make, like, apples and stuff. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. This seemingly simple process is happening like trillions of times every second all around us, powering life as we know it.
Wow.
And the really wild part is that this quantum coherence, this ability to be in multiple places at once.
Yeah.
It's happening in the warm, messy environment of a living cell.
Yeah.
Usually we only see this kind of thing in super controlled lab settings at like ultra low temperatures,
So how do plants do it then? Keep this quantum stuff going in all that chaos.
That's the million-dollar question that's got scientists scratching their heads. Like, how do they shield this delicate quantum process from all the noise around them?
It's like they have some kind of quantum shield, right? Amazing.
Yeah.
But how does all this talk about energy transfer actually lead to the creation of stuff? How do we go from light energy to like an actual apple?
Great question. So at the reaction center, all that carefully transported energy, it starts this process we call charge separation.
Okay, charge separation. What's that now?
Imagine it like an electron getting ripped away from its atom and being transferred to a different molecule. It creates this stable form of stored energy, like almost like a tiny battery getting charged.
Okay, like a tiny battery.
Yeah. And this new molecule, we call it NADPH, it acts like this little energy courier. It's ready to deliver those precious electrons to wherever they need to go to build the very foundation of life.
So those electrons then go on to, like, make an apple?
Not directly, no, but they play a vital role. They power this essential enzyme called rubisco.
Rubisco.
And get this rubisco, it's the most abundant protein on the whole planet.
Wow, that's a lot of rubisco.
It is, and it has this super important job.
What's that?
It grabs carbon dioxide from the air.
Oh, wow.
And then it uses those energized electrons we've been talking about to convert that carbon dioxide into organic molecules, like sugars.
So the air we breathe is literally being transformed into plant matter, powered by sunlight and quantum mechanics.
It's like alchemy, but it's real. And those sugars are the building blocks for everything else a plant needs, like cellulose for structure, starch for energy storage, even those vibrant pigments you see in flowers.
It's mind-blowing to think about. This fundamental process that powers all life as we know it is so deeply connected to this bizarre world of quantum mechanics. It really changes how we see nature working at its most basic level, you know?
Absolutely. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore and so much more we don't know about how this intricate quantum dance is choreographed within living cells.
Yeah, so much to learn.
Right. It's fascinating.
Well, this has been an incredible journey into the quantum heart of photosynthesis so far. We've seen how plants capture that light energy, use it to split water, and ultimately build the very fabric of life, all thanks to this delicate interplay of quantum phenomena.
And there's so much more to explore.
Okay, so we've talked about how plants capture light and all that energy transfer in photosynthesis, but you said something earlier about burning water.
Yeah.
And that sounds kind of weird to me. Like, how do you burn water? And how does that fit into this whole photosynthesis thing?
That's where things get really interesting. When we talk about burning in this context, we're not thinking about flames and heat like a campfire.
Right, okay.
It's more about this chemical process called oxidation.
Oxidation. Isn't that like losing electrons or something?
You got it. Oxidation is all about the loss of electrons.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually the same fundamental process that happens when something burns in, the traditional sense. Think about a log burning in a fireplace.
Yeah.
The oxygen from the air is grabbing electrons from the carbon in the wood.
Oh, okay. And that releases energy, in the form of heat and light.
Okay, so I see the connection now. But how does that apply to water? Like, water's not flammable, right?
Well, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen atoms, right?
Right.
And those hydrogen atoms, they hold on to their electrons really, really tightly.
So it must be super hard to steal those electrons from water to oxidize it.
Exactly. It's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And in fact, photosynthetic systems are the only things in nature that we know of that can actually do this.
Wow, so plants are pretty impressive chemists then. But how do they manage to oxidize water if it's so tough?
That's where all that energy we talked about before comes in. That energy captured by chlorophyll and shuttled around by NADPH.
Remember those guys?
Yeah, exactly. Those energized electrons are like the key.
Oh.
They power this whole chain of reactions that ultimately splits those water molecules apart.
So it's like they're providing the muscle to rip apart those water molecules.
That's a great way to think about it. And here's the truly remarkable part.
The byproduct of all of this water splitting reaction, is oxygen.
Wait, are you saying that the oxygen we breathe comes from plants splitting water apart using quantum mechanics?
Yes, exactly. Every breath you take is like a testament to the power of photosynthesis.
That's amazing.
It's a process that's been happening for billions of years, powered by these quantum events at the tiniest level.
It really connects us to plants in a way I never thought about before.
Hmm.
Okay, but so far we've talked about light, water, electrons. Where does carbon dioxide fit into all of this? How do we get to the actual building blocks of life, like sugars?
That's a great question. Carbon dioxide is like the essential ingredient that plants use to build those sugars.
Okay.
Remember that enzyme ribisco?
Yeah, the most abundant protein on Earth.
That's the one. It's a real workhorse. So it takes carbon dioxide from the air and uses the energy from those energized electrons we were talking about and combines it with some other molecules to form those fundamental sugar molecules.
So it's like plants are breathing in carbon dioxide. And then, with the help of sunlight and water, transforming it into the building blocks of life.
Exactly.
That's pretty incredible. And to think that something as basic as the air we breathe is so connected to the quantum world.
Right. It's amazing. And it doesn't stop there. Those simple sugars, they're used to create all sorts of complex molecules.
Oh, wow.
From the cellulose that gives plants their structure to the starches they use to store energy.
It's like a giant web of energy and matter, all orchestrated by these mind-boggling quantum events happening at a scale we can barely imagine.
And we're just beginning to understand how deep this quantum connection goes. There are still so many unanswered questions about how these delicate processes are maintained and regulated, like inside the chaotic environment of a living cell.
It makes you realize how much we take for granted. Just a simple plant.
Right.
It's really amazing how complex and sophisticated they are.
Indeed. And the more we learn about photosynthesis, the more we can appreciate the elegance and ingenuity of how nature designed it all.
It's amazing, right? Like something so simple as a plant soaking up some sun could be so complex. All this quantum mechanics going on in there.
It really shows you how everything in nature is connected. From the tiniest particles to the biggest ecosystems. And this quantum dance isn't just for capturing and storing energy.
Right.
It's crucial for how we and everything else that's alive access and use that energy too.
You're talking about respiration now, right?
Yeah.
That's when we breathe in oxygen and break down those sugars to release energy.
Exactly. We're taking those complex molecules made by plants through photosynthesis,
Right.
breaking them down, and then releasing that energy that's stored in those chemical bonds.
Oh, yeah. And we talked about that a little bit before when we were talking about enzymes.
What were those?
Yeah, those little molecular machines that speed up all the chemical reactions in living things.
Right. And some of them, they use quantum phenomena like tunneling to do their job, right?
Tunneling? What's that?
Think of it like those electrons. They can hop right through energy barriers, you know?
Whoa.
It helps break down sugars and release the energy our cells need to function.
So it's like a microscopic power grid, and quantum mechanics is keeping everything running smoothly.
That's a great way to think about it. And it all comes full circle, you know? The energy that plants grab from the sun through those quantum processes, that's what powers the quantum stuff that makes respiration work in us.
So we're all part of this big web of energy and matter connected at the smallest level.
Exactly. We started off talking about plants using quantum mechanics to make food.
Yeah.
And now we've come all the way around to how we use those same quantum principles to get energy from that food.
It's like a beautiful cycle.
It really is. And it shows us why understanding these processes is so important. Not just because it's cool science, but because it could change things like medicine, agriculture,
Wow.
and even how we search for life on other planets.
That's amazing.
Right.
If quantum mechanics is this crucial for life here, then maybe it's how life works everywhere, you know?
That's a really fascinating thought. Imagine if we could use what we know about quantum mechanics in life on Earth to help us find life on other planets.
That would be incredible. So starting with something like photosynthesis can lead us to all these huge questions about life in the universe.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the universe is full of surprises and that the more we learn, the more we realize how much we still don't know.
It makes you want to keep exploring, right?
Right. There's always something new to discover, something new to unravel. That's what makes science so exciting.
Well said. Today, we went from plants and apples to this mind-blowing world of quantum mechanics.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
We saw how these two things that seem so different are actually deeply connected, showing us the beauty and complexity of nature.
It just goes to show the power of scientific inquiry and all the amazing things waiting for us as we keep exploring the universe, from the huge to the tiny and everything in between.
It's a journey that never ends.
And that's the best part.